My name is Diane Going, and I am the corporate controller here at Smith Micro. My primary responsibility is to make sure that things run smoothly from the finance department. So we have accounts receivable, accounts payable, we do taxes, we do SEC reporting, we deal with auditors, we deal with Sarbanes-Oxley, you name it, and I've probably touched it at one time or another. When I started, the company had about 75 people. We actually had offices, well, we had the corporate office here in Aliso Viejo, and then we had offices in Boulder, Colorado, and Plano, Texas. With the acquisition in March, we added an office in Beaverton, Oregon. So we were still pretty small at that time. We grew to 120 in late 2000, but then unfortunately hit some hard times and we actually shrunk down to about 50. I think one of the reasons we can survive hard times is that most people really work hard to work together as a team. Finance especially. You know, I've joked with our staff, you're not allowed to say that's not my job, ever, under any circumstances. You can say, I'll get back to you later, but you know, whatever needs doing, we will do. We cover for each other. We've had some pretty hard times and they always hit at an inconvenient time, but we've never missed a deadline and don't plan to start now. So that sense of teamwork, I think, where everybody wants to get the job done, makes a big difference. My husband was in China for 6 weeks, and I had a 7-year-old at home who came down with some sort of terrible flu. And as only little boys can, wanted his mommy and cried and carried on, and I had absolutely nobody to leave him with. I had no family, you know, nobody wants a sick kid, right? And we didn't have a policy for anything like this. I was pretty much one of the only women around. I was certainly the only person with a kid. And I thought about it, and I finally packed up my child and brought him to work and made him a little bed in the corner of the office and got to work because we had an SEC filing due in 3 or 4 days. So I was coordinating attorneys, coordinating the filing service, doing all these things. And Bill came in to ask me how it was going because he knew it was tough with Mark not there. And you know, he and I hadn't talked much at that time. And so I'm scared to death. CEO's coming in my office, I've got a kid on the floor. I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm fired. And he looked and he started to say, you know, how is it going? Do you need any help? And he looked over and he saw my son and he said, what's wrong? And I said, well, you know, Bill, I'm really sorry. I didn't have a choice. I don't have anybody to take care of him. We'll go home as soon as I can, but I've got to get this over to the printers and the lawyers keep making changes and I'm scrambling. And he looks at me and he says, you really need to be home with your family. I said, but Bill, this has got to go to the printer. And you could see he was actually really torn. He wanted to say, I don't really care. But he couldn't because we are a public company and like I said, we've never missed a deadline and he wasn't going to be the one to start that. So he just looked at me and he said, you do what you need to do and then you go home and you take care of your kids. And so for me, you know, the reason I'm here is because of Bill. It sounds really hokey and corny, but I've never been able to not be a mom while I was here. I came here to change my life, and I did. I haven't missed a ball game, a PTA, a school play, a musical, anything. Nobody ever said, oh, you have to get this done. It was, you need to go be a mom. And when I was involved in politics a little bit, and with the cityhood committee, he said, go for it. He said, we need people to be involved. Do what you need to do. Although one time when I said, I'm going to a Board of Supervisors meeting, he looked at me and he said, are we supposed to vote for you? I was like, no, I'm not going to run. I'll be behind the scenes. Thank you very much. But I appreciated the time off. I appreciated the fact that while a lot of companies talk about balance, I was actually able to get it here. That was a big deal to me. I've been very fortunate in my career in that most of the places that I have worked have been truly wonderful places to work and have really added to my life and my experience. I've never been in the position where I've had to actually stay with a job because I needed that paycheck and couldn't do anything else. So in that respect, I'm as lucky as Bill. But I do think, I think a lot of that is what you put into it. I think that people who sit around and mope and complain and say they're not doing this for me, well, you're missing part of the equation. You generally have to give to get. There's not going to be.
You're not going to be in school. There's not going to be a quiz.
You know, it's really hard to be relaxed and suck at your tummy.
Don't worry about that.
I'm teased around the company that I'm the mom. You know, whenever I'm nagging somebody to do something, it's yes, mom, no, mom. We don't have any rivalries with anybody except Carla. I prefer, generally speaking, to keep my work life separate from my home life. Although my husband has joked on many occasions and referred to Hugh or Mike Berry as my other husband. A little bit of that has changed recently when, well, a good example is Carla's marketing team challenging us to the costume contest recently. We won, but I'm sure it's only because Ziggy couldn't quite keep his pants up. I came here for balance, and that's what I got. I've never had an issue where I've been told, you know, your family isn't important and you need to do this first, or any of those kinds of things, which I think is really great because, like I said before, a lot of companies say they offer balance, but in my experience, Smith Micro really does.